SABC News presentation.
Welcome to Interface here on SABC3. My name is Thembi Samakhele. And you've probably heard by now that renowned academic and businesswoman Dr. Mamphele Ramphele has launched a political party called Agang SA, or Build South Africa. But does South Africa need yet another political party? And what kind of difference can Dr. Ramphele really make? These are just some of the questions that we're going to be posing to her tonight on Interface. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take your SMSs, but we will take your Facebook messages. Our Facebook page is Interface on SABC3, so do keep those thoughts coming. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us, Mom.
Thank you very much for having me.
Agang South Africa, you've always said you didn't have an ambition to go into politics, and yet here you are. How did this come about?
South Africa is at yet another crossroads. As an active citizen for the last 45 years, I realized that the country is headed in the wrong direction in relation to the commitments we made in our constitution and in celebrating our freedom 20 years ago almost. We committed to be a society that will be known for unity in diversity, prosperity for all, and human rights. When you look around the country, and I've had 4 months of listening to South Africans across the spectrum.
You've been traveling very widely.
We are not doing well, and if we continue on this trajectory with an economy that is not creating opportunities for all, an education system that is not producing quality education for the majority of the children, for a health system which is not protecting women and children in childbirth, and safety and security, which clearly is not on top of crime and law enforcement. We need a fresh start.
Okay, Mama, we're going to get into some of the aims and the goals of this political party. But, you know, what about reports that say that had it not been for the demands that you made on the DA, you would have actually gone on to lead that political party?
I am not doing what I'm doing because I want to be a leader. I am doing what I'm doing because I believe the country needs fundamental change. And that's what Agang represents. A fresh start that recognizes that we have a young country. The youngest population profile in the world is in this country. And yet, we are not making sure that young people who played such a seminal role in reigniting the torch of freedom in 1976. We are not honoring that spirit of 1976. And that is not a question of being a member of this party or the other party. It's in setting up a platform that speaks to those basic principles and the values that were intended to honor the commitments we made in our constitution.
But are those reports true? Did you have the talks with the Democratic Alliance, and did they say to you, we would like you to lead our party? And did you actually say, you know, if that's going to happen, you need to change the structure of this party and even the name of this party if I'm going to come on board?
Well, that we had discussions is now a matter of public record. The issues of disagreement are not really issues that I'm going to talk about here, because what is important is for people, as has happened over the last 4 months, to warm to the opportunity that Agang offers. An opportunity for South Africa to say, what is it that you would like to see? How do we turn around this beautiful country of ours to be the country of our dreams? And so the key issue for Agang right now is focusing on responding to the grassroots calls for change in those 4 areas that I spoke about: the economy, education, health, and safety and security. We are also listening to experts who are taking those grassroots messages and turning them into policy positions. We believe that South Africa is ready for change and that the time for change is now.
But Dr. Ramphele, here's the problem. Our viewers that are watching you may have read these articles, may have heard these reports, and they're sitting and they're wondering how credible this party is if indeed it was the result of the fallout. So in other words, the perception that's been created is that there was this fallout with the DA, and then you sat back and you thought, now that that's not working out, what can I do? Why don't I form this political party, Agang, and call every South African and say, here's something different for you?
Every South African who cares about this country would recognize that there is need for consolidation of alternative parties. And that was the attempt to consolidate from that process of discussion. And so it's not a question of that didn't work, therefore. What we are doing in Agang is we started by setting up a platform open to everybody. And we have talked to not just the DA, we have talked to the other parties in the opposition space. And we believe that our message resonates with many people in many parties, including those in the governing party. So we are creating a platform for all of those South Africans who in 2009, almost half of eligible voters didn't vote. So we are not responding to the fact that somebody didn't agree to what we are saying. We are responding to the reality that there are South Africans there who are looking for an alternative platform. And Agang is that alternative platform. And the building is the focus. Build the country of our dreams.
Let's go back to that question that I asked in my introduction. Does South Africa need yet another relatively small political party? Are you not just weakening the opposition here and actually making the African National Congress even stronger by fragmenting that opposition?
There is a way of consolidation. Sometimes it requires a fresh start. Because why have those parties not come together in the past? What we are doing is to propose a platform which puts the country first, which puts the future first. There is too much of a focus in our politics on the legacy issues. What this country, which is young, needs is a future-focused party, a party that puts the country first, a party that puts the citizen at the center of the politics.
But isn't that what every party argues that they are doing? That everybody's focused on the citizens, everybody wants to do what's best, they want to fix the education system, they want to fix the health system. What's new with the approach that you're bringing?
What is new is we have actually gone out to listen to people.
But that's what the ANC would say they're doing as well.
We are listening to people not with a preconceived idea of what they should believe in and not believe in. Second, after listening to people, we know that we need electoral reform as a matter of urgency. There aren't any parties who are seeing this as an urgent thing. We have launched a petition for electoral reform, and in that petition we are saying we need a mixed system so that people, citizens who say to us in the listening process, they feel like forgotten people. They feel their voices are not heard. They don't feel respected. We are saying that the only way that can happen is when people elect people that they know that they can go to. And so Agang, in its drawing up of its political list or its electoral list, is going to practice what we believe South Africa needs. So we will generate our list from people from the grassroots up, so that we have that sense that people feel that they are respected.
Hold that thought, Dr. Ramphele, because we have to take a short break, but I do want us to explore that further. You know, how would we actually get the electoral system to change in this country? But we're back after this. Welcome back to Interface here on SABC3. We're chatting to Dr. Mamphele Ramphele, who has just launched a political party called Agang. Now, before the break, we're talking about the electoral system and how we can change it, and I would like us to get back to that at a further point. But in terms of the aims that you have for this party, you talked about the education, you talked about fixing what's going wrong in our country. The list goes on, the health system. But the ANC says you are grievance driven, that in fact you are rehashing old challenges that are known. What do you say to that?
We are not rehashing challenges that are known. We are identifying why we have an economy that's not working. And we are saying that the reason is we did not restructure the primary sectors in our economy. The mining industry, we've got a huge mineral resource which we are not using effectively. We have huge tracts of land that we are not using effectively. We're not talking about simply land reform. We're talking about connecting the mining industry to the opportunities of the 21st century, which means we must move out of the low skill, low wage environment that we currently are struggling with into a high skill, high wage environment, which automatically is going to mean reducing the numbers of people who are employed in the mining industry. But when you think about the opportunity of taking people out of harm's way 4 kilometers down and creating links to the land where they come from. Many of those mine workers come from the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape is the richest province in terms of the soil, but is lying in waste, and much of it is state-owned. The state doesn't even know what it owns, and we need to make sure we have got a proper audit of that land. In the same way that we handed over 4-roomed houses to people in Soweto, why can't we hand over land to people and help them develop it so that we can have food security and industrial agricultural products?
Dr. Ramphele, just on the issue of mining, you were chairperson of Goldfields, and there was some controversy there around the BEE deals that company had. And actually, a lot of the reports said you did not do your role. You did not do your job properly in terms of corporate governance and making sure that the things that BEE is meant to do were done in the company that you chaired.
I arrived at the tail end of that BEE deal. I was assured that certain things had been done, and when we looked closer, we found that certain things had not been done. And that is why, under my watch, we instituted an independent review. And that report is being finalized as we speak. So it is not true that I didn't do my job. As soon as I was aware of the problems, we instituted a completely independent review.
Okay.
And therefore, I did what any normal person would have done under the circumstances.
But besides the BEE deal, what did you do in your capacity as chairperson to make sure that the plight of those poor mine workers, and I call them poor because of the wages that they earn, that their plight was advanced, that they were taken care of, and that you were making a concerted effort to bring the kind of change that you now speak about?
Absolutely. If you go and look at the minutes of the Goldfield board meetings, you will see that under my watch, we push much harder for people to move out of hostels, which are a real insult on the dignity of people, into proper housing, whether they're bachelor flats or what have you. We push very hard for skills training. Goldfields has one of the best skills training facilities, which has not been utilized to capacity. And so it is not true that what I'm saying has not been practiced within Goldfields. Of course we need to do more. The whole country needs to do more. And it can't be a Goldfields thing. It's got to be an industry-wide approach. And in that regard, one of the last things I did was to promote a real systematic industry-wide attack on the triple burdens of TB, HIV/AIDS, and silicosis. As we speak now, there is a process which was started, which continues, to make sure that every one of those companies contributes to a pooled fund to deal with the consequences of that triple burden.
Let's take education as an example. Everybody in their manifestos speaks of education. You are no different. What would you do to fix the education system in this country? I know that we don't have the luxury of time to go into the very intricate details, but, you know, high level, what would you do differently?
The first important thing is no government should be in alliance with a union representing the people they are supposed to manage. And that's the first step, because it becomes difficult to manage people who are your comrades. So the teacher problem that we have in this country, we need an audit to see who are the teachers with what skills and who are those that need further training to be competent. Because we have written ad nauseum about our failed education system. Second, we need to respond. We have audits already of the physical state of our schools. We need to make sure every school becomes a school. And you know what? The opportunities to train people, to create jobs, and to create hope by making sure that every school is not only built to the requisite standards, but that every school is Wi-Fi.
Dr.
Why
Ramphele,
should we be using textbooks?
Before we go to a quick break, I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking to myself, there goes her support from all the unions that would have wanted to be affiliated to Agang. Now, that brings me to my next question. The very real perception that you don't have mass appeal, you don't have support from the grassroots, and that you just appeal to the elite and the middle class, and that vote is very small.
Agang supports the rights of workers to unionize completely. What we are saying is there is a conflict to have a governing party in alliance with unions. That's a completely different thing. It's a governance issue. Now, the issue of my not having support from ordinary people would be laughable if it wasn't said, because people just refuse to see the facts. I am a rural girl, and when after we made announcement of Agang, I went to the villages. I wasn't met by elites. I was met by ordinary people. This listening trip, or the listening journeys that I've undertaken, all have been to people who, for the first time, they were being listened to by someone who wasn't there to recruit them.
All right.
And so it is not true that we are an elite party. We are a people's party responding to ordinary citizens.
Only time will tell, Dr. Ramphele. We have to take another short break. We are loving your comments on Facebook. To keep them coming. That's Interface on SABC 3. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Interface. We continue our chat with Dr. Mamphele Ramphele tonight, talking about Agang, the new political party that she has launched. And I do want us to quickly touch on the electoral reform and what that would entail. Very quickly, please.
The first point is to make sure we honor the mixed system that we're supposed to have, that we'll have constituencies so that people can have MPs that they can elect and hold accountable. But at the same time, we need to balance that with proportionality. So out of the 400 seats in parliament, 300 should be constituency and 100 should be party list.
But surely the people that were coming up with the system that we have now, back in 1994, looked at all of the options that were there and found that this, what we have, the party system, works best.
That's not true. What happened in 94 was what we have now was put together as a part of the reconciliation, the bridging, so that everybody will feel represented in the proportional system.
So now it's time
and
for
it was
change.
agreed at that time that we will review the system and so that after 2 elections we'll have a proper system that will balance both the proportionality issues and the direct representation. Remember, this struggle for freedom was about the people shall govern. The people have to be at the center of deciding how this country is run. Right now, citizens are very much out of the picture. It's a party game.
Okay.
Now that has to change.
Dr. Ramphele, political parties cost money.
Yes.
So who is funding Agang? Because you've said publicly that it's not the Americans, as previously thought.
We are funded by high net worth individuals in South Africa, South African citizens who want to see change. We are funded by ordinary Mr. and Mrs. South Africa who are giving their 100 rands, 2,000 rand, 200,000 rand. We are also funded by South Africans in the diaspora. There are South Africans in America, and they are funding us. There are South Africans in London. I went to see them last week. They will fund us. And there are South Africans down under in Australia. They will fund us. We have a country to build. And every South African who loves this country, this is a beautiful country. Every South African who loves this country will make a contribution. And people are volunteering of their time, their energy, their expertise. This is how Agang is funded.
So the names that have been thrown around, like Mr. Moletsi Mbeki, Dr. Pane Pikiana, are they the people behind you? Are they the wind beneath your wings?
The wind beneath the wings of Agang are young South Africans.
But are those two individuals part of
We are going to
Agang?
announce them, and you will see. I will be probably the oldest member of that team. We have young Turks.
So are these two individuals part of Agang? Can you confirm or deny?
I am talking to you about what we are doing, that we have young people whose names will be announced, and they are in their 40s, their 30s, their 20s.
So
this is a young party. It's
maybe
the party of the future.
The lack of a categorical denial might perhaps mean that they are part of that political party. But let's leave it at that, Dr. Mamphele Ramphele. And here's another issue, the leadership issue. There are some that say, at the World Bank, you weren't very successful. So what kind of leadership can you really bring to a political party and perhaps becoming the president of South Africa?
I always am intrigued by how people define success. I was a successful young doctor, successful vice chancellor of UCT. UCT is now a world-class African university. I was a very successful managing director at the World Bank. For the first time, the World Bank had a human development program that was worthy of the name. And so I am very comfortable with my achievements. I don't need to add to my CV. My CV is strong enough. What I'm doing is to respond to my passion for this country. I'm doing this for my children and my grandchildren. And I'm not doing this alone, and that's the reason why. If you look at the Agang team, it's a team of young people. I'm the bridge. And you will see the political leadership that will be announced, they're young people. And the bridge is this woman who loves this country.
And just quickly before we let you go, your ambitions, do they lead to the highest office in the land? Are you looking to be the next president of South Africa?
We are looking as Agang to change the way politics is done. And if it involves Mamphele being president, absolutely. We are going for a win in 2014. And we believe this is an idea whose time has come. It is possible to change this country. We have a great country. We've done it before. We'll do it again.
Dr. Ramphele, thank you very much. And we will watch the space. Hopefully, you will not go the way of the other smaller political parties fighting things out in court or doing things that are truly unsavory. Hopefully, you will succeed. We will watch and we will be reporting on your success as we go along. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. We put in the country first.
And thank you. That's how we come to the end of our show tonight. Thank you for your thoughts on our Facebook page. Do join us again next week at the same time. Good night.